Hey, Greg, you're back.
I
Craig, you're
am.
back.
Last week on the tavern, I had some technical difficulties. So
Last week, Tuesday, same
yeah,
thing.
that's earlier this week. So earlier this week. Last week's probably not the best way to say it. Earlier this week,
I think you and I both experienced some technical difficulties.
we did. It was, but it was a great show.
Yeah.
On there. So go check out our main show, the Golfing Dad's Tavern, with Astral Putters there. But tonight on the Halfway House, we are here to talk about the pack and what they've agreed to. So some of the changes on the PGA Tour in the upcoming season. And some people are for it, and some people might not be so for it. So let's get started here. And Steve, I'm going to go to you first. A lot of the changes, we've talked about this on a past halfway house and a past tavern. We've brought up that there's some changes. People want things to be different. They're reacting to the Live Tour and what's happening there. They're reacting to what's happening on with the PIF and all of that. So we talked about it. There's changes, shortening fields, changing some things around. But all of these things we've talked about, they've agreed to. So Steve, I'm going to go to you first. Do you agree that they're doing the right thing?
Does it matter if I agree or disagree? I want to
Do you
say that
think, maybe not agree, do you think that it's a good, they're going down the right path, whether it's a good choice, but do you think it'll help?
again, we've talked about this before, not in depth like we're going to tonight. We did discuss this a couple weeks ago here in a halfway house. I don't. There's part of me that is so hard to get on the PGA Tour to begin with. It is the hardest. Like, if you're the worst player on the PGA Tour, I don't think people quite understand that you could be the worst player on the PGA Tour and they'd make any club champion or teaching professional look stupid. These guys are that good. And I think we've all seen that with, and we've gone down the rabbit hole. Dave, you're not on TikTok, but Bryson is taking over TikTok right now, trying to make a hole-in-one on TikTok every day and hitting it over his house. And literally the other day, he was like, I can't believe I haven't made a hole-in-one yet. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm 49 years old, and I haven't made a hole-in-one yet. And
yeah, but it's
I'm
not your house and your home.
I'm like a normal everyday adult that I watch TikTok videos that happen when they come out on Instagram or Facebook a couple days later.
Okay.
Just like the Golfing Dad's Tavern and the Halfway House.
So I'm going to quote Lucas Glover in saying they think we're stupid on the Player Advisory Council.
Well, I mean, I was going to read that. So he said, okay, I think it's terrible that they're hiding behind pace of play, and I think they're challenging our intelligence and think we're stupid. That they're making these changes for these reasons when, as he also says, don't cut fields because it's a pace of play issue. Tell us to play faster, or just say you're trying to appease the 6 guys on tour.
You know, and they go on to point out, the tour has a system in place right now. You're told you're out of position, you get put on the clock, and then, you're going into penalty strokes. It's very rare that they actually ever reach it to that point. Start with the penalty strokes. You're out of position. You've taken too long. Go to the penalty strokes. And
no, because the tour, all they do is fine you now. They don't even issue penalty strokes. They fine you. I don't.
Penalty strokes will increase the pace of play.
Oh, 100%. I think the other problem you run into on the PGA Tour, and I understand this idea too, they don't, if they get a rain delay at all or a fog delay or any semblance of a 30-minute weather delay right now on the PGA Tour on Thursday or Friday, I think that they can't, you're going to have to finish round 2 either Friday or round 1 or round 2 Friday or Saturday morning before you can even begin round 3. So I get the idea of what you're trying to do and where you're trying to get to. If you're the tour, from a TV idea, from a player idea of not having to bring players back out, I think the problem that I have with it is, there's a lot of money to be had. I mean, how much money did Scotty Scheffler make this year? How much money did Jon Rahm make this year on the respective tours? The problem that I have with it is the rich keep getting richer, and you look at there's that shuffle and that cut number of, the top 70. And there's ways outside the top 70. Like I look at a player like Davis Riley, and I know we mentioned him a couple weeks ago. Davis finished 72nd on the FedEx Cup points list. Now he won last year, so he gets in based on being a winner in the last 2 years. So he can pretty much name his ticket for the next two, this year, next year, on being a past champion. But I think when you look at what they're doing, you have all they're trying to do is cater to the rich. And how do you get into that group? Like they're making it almost impossible to get into that club.
Well, let me ask you this question, because this seems to me like we're reacting, not us, but the golf community and the tour, just like the USGA, we're reacting to one thing that happened. We've been playing golf for hundreds of years. This hasn't been a problem on tour for hundreds of years, but all of a sudden, if it's a rain delay and it's a pace of play thing, like why now do you feel you have to change this and you're hiding behind pace of play when it seems like you're just trying to shrink the field to appease to the higher up players instead of letting the field be what it was and have those exciting moments of players work their way up the way that it's always been. That's never, to be honest, been a problem. Like you do have events that sometimes the weather comes in and it causes you to do that, but they've had stipulations and ways to combat that. It really is. I agree with Lucas Glover. It's a pace of play thing. Like the reason you're not getting these in when you add the weather on top of it is some of these players are taking too long out there. And that's the real issue. Instead
one of them sits on the player advisory council, and we've ripped him on this show.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's so don't tell players like Lucas Glover who's grinding out there. He really is. Right. That it's not about pace of play, that you just don't want to solve that problem because you don't think you can, when you've worked this for years. Why all of the sudden does this system not work?
And I think a lot of those, the rich keep getting richer scenario here, are the ones holding up the pace of play because, they're the ones in the top 10, top 15 week in and week out, that are, and we've heard several of them say, I need time to line up my putt. This changes, this, that, and the other. Yes, it is difficult. Golf at that level is a very difficult game, but you are playing at that level. You should be able to understand how to line up a putt and understand the difference between a shot that goes 176 yards and 175 yards. And it shouldn't take you 4 minutes to figure that out.
I mean, you talked about this. Both of you kind of talked about that with Bryson, and he's hitting these shots. If you're watching what Bryson is doing in this hole-in-one challenge, is hitting over his house, you can see he knows what he's doing. When he hits it, he has that feel. He knows what's there, and he knows when it's close. Although every time he says it's close, he's 10 feet short and hits the rocks. But they have that feel. There is.
Yeah.
They have that feel. They know that. But why is a player like Tiger and Rory, where they can play on pace, having trouble with this? They're not doing it for pace of play. They're voting on this because it does shrink the field and makes their odds better. Versus,
Well, Rory has said all along that they need to cut field size and they need to cut cards. Yeah. Rory's made no secret about that.
But he's doing it for that reason, because he's a great player. If it's a shorter field, you have less to beat. Because look at Scotty last year. A lot of people said, "Hey, Scotty's wins were in the shorter fields, and he just dominated in those shorter fields." I mean, he just dominates all around. He just happened to win in those shorter fields.
Glover, he said, there's 200 guys. This is their job. And, we've all been part of a company that is, downsized and gone through cuts before. And, if you treat the PGA Tour like a company, then yes, you can downsize and, go through cuts. It's a professional sporting event. I don't see the, 52-man NFL team going, well, we think we can make it with 48. I don't see, things like that. This is the only professional sport out there right now that's saying, I think we have too many people that are professionals right now, and some of them need to go away.
So this is the equivalent of, let me ask you this question real quick.
Okay.
March Madness. Okay. They are doing the opposite in a sense. It was a field of 64. Now it's a field of 68. NCAA football, same thing, was 4, went to 12 because more people should have the opportunity, because we all love that Cinderella story. We love that
No, we just all got tired of
underdog
Alabama.
story. That's also true. But
And Ohio
NIL has killed that. So with all of that, you're just shrinking this to kind of make the PGA what Live kind of tried to become as well. Like, you had a good product, and I feel you're overreacting to something here that's going to just help the top at their game, and is not going to help what we always say on the show, grow the game.
I think the dynamic that I keep looking at on this whole deal is, I think it's the tour struggles because the Live proponents have been very vocal when Davis Thompson won, Davis Riley won. You had these guys, Nico Echeverria won. And they always say, who are these guys winning? And so the tour is like, we need to have our big names win more. So how do we make our big names win more? I don't necessarily. I look at that as the other side of the story, and this is my argument that I've made all along to all these people. I would rather watch, and don't get me wrong, 2000 Tiger was amazing. 2024 Scotty Scheffler was amazing. I almost enjoy watching these other tournaments that these other guys win more, because it shows the competitive depth of the PGA Tour. It shows how great these guys really are. And it shows you just how hard it is. Golf, I mean, let's be real. Scotty Scheffler had one of the greatest years in golf, arguably the greatest year in golf in a calendar year. It shouldn't be that easy. He was playing PlayStation. Like, it literally was like playing Tiger Woods' PlayStation game. Like, it was 2K23, let's go. Like, he made the game look so easy. It's nice to see these guys, these up-and-comers, win to get their shot, because that's the only way they can get their shot. It is.
When you say you say prime time, and you may say prime. I was a Phil fan, back then. I was never on the Tiger train. Tiger was great for the game of golf. I 100% will back everything that he did for the game of golf. But here's the thing, and this, it goes, say something like on, maybe take this to Scotty Scheffler is now too, where these big names and everything that they do, they're only you don't see them out at, say, the John Deere Classic. You don't see them at Harbor Town. You don't see them playing these shorter courses, where somebody like Lucas Glover is out there all the time. Yes, Scotty has played Harbor Town before, but you don't.
They all play Harbor Town. It's an elevated event.
Well, okay. now it is. But you understand what I'm saying. You never saw Tiger show up at Harbor Town because it's too short of a course for him to go out there and hit 4 and 5 iron around there. Whereas you have these guys like Lucas Glover, that go out and can play all the different courses, whereas you just have your big names that are just showing up at, either the elevated events or courses that, you can, drive and chip out there, where it's not so much the fundamentals of the rest of the game.
So I'm going to give you
PGA Tour has turned into driver wedge, though. It's whoever puts the best anyway. That's how we know who wins.
But I'm going to give you the perfect example of this, of why it shouldn't change. And I'm going to say 2023. Because that was the year we were talking about, Live has this excitement, and the other events that weren't elevated weren't going to be as exciting. And I feel every week on our other show, we were talking about, like, did you see what happened here? Like when Nick Taylor won the Canadian Open, when Ricky Fowler won, when Thigala won, when
Tony Finau
won. Like, you saw Chris Kirk, when you saw all these people that were they're the top now, but they worked their way up there. Keegan and his kind of comeback that year. That was the exciting thing about it, was seeing these players that weren't the top that had that chance to win, and you're going to lose that by shortening these fields.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to come back and say that, no one who's like between 125 and 175 is there, but that has happened. And it's more exciting when you have more competition in the fields, because it does. I'm not seeing the same winners every week. I'm not seeing this. I don't want to
Yeah.
see Scotty's 2024 every year unless it's Scotty, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because I want to see
You know,
Scotty continue that.
Now, a lot of those guys, may not be top 10 every week, but for a lot of them, being top 50, it's life changing.
Yeah.
For a lot of those people is to be top 50 week in and week out. And to be top 50, you got to start somewhere. And then eventually, okay, I missed a putt here on 18 that would have got me to 35. I make this shot here, and golf is a game of little shots. And if you're taking away, 125 to 170, those little shots don't happen, and you don't get those stories that bring us in as viewers. Now, there's a lot of people out there, and I'm friends with a lot of them that only watched golf during prime Tiger. If Tiger didn't make the cut or Tiger, they weren't watching golf. Whereas, there's the handful of purists that are out there that'll watch golf. It doesn't matter who's on top of the leaderboard. Yeah, it helps that Scotty and Rory and, this new rivalry is coming around with all of them, and it's great for the game of golf. But we need something that's going to take us, through some of these other events. And that's where it is. It's, it's these guys here. It's those stories that drive the game of golf, not your top 10. Those drive the majors and the elevated events. PGA should be driven by all those other stories and what makes the game great.
100%. This lets, like, what if you were at your job and you worked hard to get promoted to a level? Like, you work your way from the Corn Ferry Tour up here, and you're playing on this. Now you can't play in events, so you have to play back in the Corn Ferry Tour, even though you just earned your way up a year ago, because they've changed the bar now. Like, that hurts those people that have now had a chance they've grinded their way up there and might be able to stay up on tour, but now it's like, no, you're gonna have to play a lot down here and earn your way higher up on tour. Like, you're changing the bar as people move along, and that's not fair to those people either.
It's like being the starting right fielder on the team that Juan Soto signs with.
That's also true.
I think that
stay with the Yankees.
I think the tour is struggling because why are they losing players? They're losing players because the PIF has opened up their pocketbooks and said, name your number and come play golf with us. And I think they're struggling in that they want to get these guys more money so that money isn't the driving reason for people to leave and go and join the Live Tour. I also think that you have players like Scotty Scheffler who look and say, my best chance is to win on the PGA Tour and make a name for myself out here. Nobody gives two bleeps what John Rahm won on the Live Tour this year. They don't. He got some trophies. Do we even care? Like, and I'm going to say this: the tour is having to combat that, and the tour is living off of legacy. The problem that the tour has is they're trying to get more money. They're trying to raise more capital. And you run into this problem where you're losing sponsors, and you're losing big sponsors. Wells Fargo stepping down from the event in Charlotte. You're losing these sponsors, and the tour loses sponsors year in and year out. But the problem is that when you lose a Wells Fargo, you lost Honda, who had been there for 40 years. They've got to do something in order to make this way more incentive-based for these sponsors to also play. It comes down to a money issue for all of them. That's really, if you follow the bouncing ball, it's money and where the money is coming from.
Well, I think it comes to a marketing issue. Like, I think it's a marketing issue. Like, market the players, market with the product that you have. Don't market for the product you think you have. Don't market for this. Market for what you have out there. Show that.
Don't market for what you had.
Yeah. Don't market for the past. Don't market for Tiger Woods out there, because Tiger's not playing out there. We all want to see that, and that's a great boost if you have Tiger playing for a week. But I want to watch the future. Market for what is coming, because these players that went to Live have gone into obscurity. The only one who hasn't is Bryson, and it's because of his online presence. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And his presence at some of the majors. But if it was just his presence at the majors, that would be it. It's this online presence that we're talking about, this hole-in-one over the house thing, that we're like, he is fun to watch on that because he is marketing himself. We
I
need to, the
also
PGA
think
Tour
that
needs to better market what they have.
I think
Well,
they need to do something about the players' rights issues, because it's the reason that you don't see these guys doing these very things. I think that there's a lot to be said for what Bryson has done. And why are we talking about Bryson? Because he's out there. He's put himself out there. He's having fun with it.
He
And
plays golf with John Daly, so hey.
but at the end of the day, Bryson is doing all of these things, but he's the only one. Let's be real. He's become good. He's become Grant Horvath, but he's also put them in the rearview mirror and surpassed all of them. And the PGA Tour needs to take a lesson in all of this. And I understand media rights. We all understand what media rights mean to these guys. At the end of the day, the tour needs to do something in order to let these players do these things on their own on platforms like TikTok and on YouTube and on Instagram, because that's how people are going to relate to them. Scotty Scheffler, let's be real. Why don't people like Scotty? Because he's literally just he wins. He's great. But is he a great interview?
He's like, I look at people like
It's
Max
the
Homa.
same.
He's about as exciting as vanilla.
Like, that's the thing when he's out there, but that's where we've talked about it before on the show. When you go to these events, we have fun going to the PGA events. We love the PGA Tour, but have more things that appease to other people that are out there.
Yeah.
Like, that's why the Waste Management is so appeasing, is because it's unique. That's why people are drawn to live, because they have that louder mentality. Not your average golf fan is not there. They have a small niche that's over there, but that's what you need to look at, is how are you marketing this? How are you letting the players market themselves? Because if Rory, I'm not saying Rory has to make up a persona or make up a personality that's out there, but market Rory for what he is. Market Ricky. That was the thing for a long time, is all these kids liked Ricky because he wore the orange. He was flashy. He was young.
Yeah.
He appeased to their sense of normalcy, like that. They felt like, oh, I relate.
Like he was the originator of the flat brim, and
and I think, and I know, Steve has harped on this point before. When it comes down to the PGA, and whether you're at the event, and I think when it comes down to watching on TV, I'm getting tired of commercials. The product isn't there. Yeah,
you're not
the
watching.
product's not
You don't
there.
watch golf. You don't watch golf.
No, it's too many. And I get it. You're trying to, you make that almighty dollar, but that's not what you're selling, and even in the split screen, it's not the best, because the commercial is playing over it. You can watch it. I still think the best thing, and unfortunately it was, when Augusta a couple years ago, with the whole, we're not going to let people in and do this and that. We're just going to broadcast the Masters ourselves, and there was no commercials. It was just like Augusta just was the giant middle finger to everybody and said,
They have
"Look,
the money
we're
to
Augusta.
do that, though.
They have the money to do that, and they control the broadcast more than any other broadcast on the PGA, because they renegotiate their deal with CBS every year. It's not a long-term deal, and they can basically, CBS has to bow down to them and say, we'll give you whatever you want.
Well, because they look and see what works and what doesn't, and they change from year to year, but you basically get the same product.
Yeah.
What I think the PGA should lean into more is something like Full Swing, that shows what these players go through, that shows that kind of stuff. Because I think I love watching Full Swing and seeing the other side of Not on the Golf Course, because now, like, Joel Damon became a household name, and I want to watch him play, but he also, and he needs to play better at some times, but I want to follow what Joel Damon does out there.
Here's I think I sent it to both of you guys today. The commercial that they did for TGL that breaks down how TGL does with Ricky Fowler. It was on TikTok today. And I think that when you look at what they've done, they're trying to make, and I'm going to say this, I don't think TGL is going to be bad. I don't think it's going to be the traditional golf that we're all used to, but I think that TGL is going to put the PGA Tour in a position where these video game kids are going to be like, hey, golf is cool.
Yeah. And that's
all these gamers that esports is taking over are going to realize, wait a minute, I don't have to go outside. I can hit golf balls into a screen and have some fun with it. I honestly think
goes
that it
way
is
back to when we were all playing the first version of like Tiger Woods on the Xbox.
So
correct.
With that being said, we all agree that a PGA Tour, don't say this is a time thing. Don't say because you've had what's worked out there. Really look at how you're marketing out there. And if you want the golfing dads to come out and help promote you, we're happy to help promote you because we love the
100%.
PGA. So
if you go back and you watch our show from Tuesday, I got a putter right here. Yeah, it's right here for you. It's inside my bag.
So with that, if you have some ideas or anything you want us to talk about, please leave comments, like, subscribe, and hope you enjoyed our show here. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, y'all.
I'm really fortunate, man. I mean, having the opportunity to build something that's incredible.
Viral on our TikTok that somebody was commenting about playing Whistling Straits for 700